or something to grind against the school district, but not always. And sometimes there are true negative things and true positive things that come out, and we just want things to be accurate. And so the unfortunate part about this is that they're falsely attacking our staff, our teachers, our administration, and stating that our people who live in this community, who are of a diverse nature in the first place, live here and support our students and do our best to educate students. They're saying that they are making racial decisions when they implement discipline. These same people believe reporters, even local independent, and they should all know better than that. If you're from this community, you probably know somebody that works for the school system and those that are writing referrals, or know people that are enforcing discipline when needed, or also know people that are doing their best to create a positive environment, which we have many situations and many initiatives that make that happen also. But reporters sometimes sensationalize things, make things up, or misinterpret things, which has happened also in this particular case, because it sells newspapers. They don't care about McKinley County. Typically, they care about their notoriety or their business, the bottom line in their business, and unfortunately, sometimes that's at the expense of the truth. And specifically, we're really disappointed in the local independent. And we're not too surprised. I don't think too many people are. But sometimes Bob Dollinger, in order to deflect from his own dishonesty, sometimes he tries to smear people and just to keep selling papers and to keep the dollars rolling in. And unfortunately, some of us sometimes buy that paper, and that's unfortunate. I haven't read an article in the Independent, I think, for like 5 years. People send me little snippets of it, but sometimes people believe this stuff. But people can go after me as a public figure, as a superintendent. That's totally fine. I'm plenty capable of defending myself. But when these attacks try to state that our staff is doing something wrong when they're not, that's when we're going to start pushing back. And that's what's happening in this particular case. Like I said, most people don't believe it because when you look at it, you can tell that it's a bit of a hit job, not founded in fact all the time, and misinterpretation. But even though I've had very few people actually mention anything about these articles, I'm going to address it really quickly and give some information, some background line by line about what's going on here. And I think people don't realize that 99.999% of a discipline happens within a school. So it's teachers and staff who may have to write a referral, the principal and others who may look into that, and there's investigations. And sometimes there's consequences for those things. Rarely does it come to central office, and even more rare, very few times am I ever involved, other than if it's something of a serious nature. I obviously hear about it if it's something that's life and safety typically in the school. And before I even talk about some of those things, I think people need to understand that our staff have done an incredible job. They've done an incredible job achieving a lot with implementing positive behavior supports for our students. We use a new program called Kickboard that we've been implementing for several years. And it's a way to recognize the good things that are happening with students in the school. That way not all discipline comes in a negative form. But the whole goal is to help students learn how to work in a school environment. But at sometimes actions of students affects others, and sometimes we have to have decisions where students are not in school because they're taking away from other students who are trying to learn, or for the safety of other students. And so the staff has done a great job at reducing referrals dramatically over the years, and also keeping the school safe, and also drastically increasing graduation rates. And those things don't jive with this narrative being created in these articles. The board actually had an objective several years ago in their first strategic plan to reduce discipline referrals and to increase graduation rates. And from that effort, along with our staff, yearly discipline referrals were cut in half by 50%. Graduation rates now in Gallup-McKinley County schools are higher than the state of New Mexico average. Our counselors, teachers, social workers, administration, numerous other staff work hard to serve students. and even under trying and difficult situations. It's a different world now. There's different behaviors, different things that our staff has to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And when even having to deal with that and going the extra mile, they've been successful in many, many different ways in many different parts of our school district in making things better for our students. And it's unfortunate they're being attacked right now with these false allegations. With respect to the article itself, I'm going to go through some of the main highlights that it appears that the attacks are coming and try to give some context to some of those things and help people understand them. I think in general, it's trying to say that we're basically expelling students at a high rate, and Native Americans are the ones that are being expelled at a greater rate than the population percentages. There's data that gets submitted to the state and things, and that I won't go into all the complexities of what that looks like and how that can be interpreted and not interpreted, and how loose it is about what is submitted to the state and what's not submitted to the state as far as data. There's no like set hard and fast way you have to submit something. Sometimes there's things that are done in error. But our documentation is complete, and we have records of every single incident that happens and the actual initial documentation of expulsions. And so it's written when a student is expelled. And being expelled from school is very, very rare. In Gallup-McKinley County Schools, the fact is that only 15 students have actually been expelled from GMCS in the last 7 years. And I wanted to give the breakdown of what those students were expelled for. Really quickly. Weapons possession, firearm, weapons possession, firearm, weapons possession, firearm, knife, drugs, theft, weapon possession, firearm, physical attack on students, staff, and security, multiple serious infractions, sexual attack, drug trafficking, physical attack, multiple repeated violations, multiple drug charges including drug trafficking, assault on a teacher, drug trafficking also, physical attack, stabbing with a knife, multiple drug charges, and the last one is weapons possession, firearm. We have continually worked to improve school safety, and unfortunately at times expulsion is necessary, and I think most people would understand that are in their right mind and have common sense that they don't want their students around this kind of stuff. And sometimes students do have to be expelled for doing things in school that should never be a part of a school system or in our environment. And these teachers still do their best job to still continue with education despite some of these things that are happening in the school. And so we're, again, taking more and more measures continually every year trying to prevent these types of things the best that we can without creating what some people might say is a too strict or too much of a prison environment. We still want to be an educational building and institution. Now maybe some people, like the Bob Zollingers of the world, they may see these offenses as okay. They may think this is all right. And it doesn't surprise me from a Bob Zollinger who goes into hospitals, makes aggressive comments about having a weapon. Doesn't surprise me he would think this might be okay. He's come into our building and other people's building of work and disrupted it and tried to throw a fit like a child. Totally inappropriate, unprofessional. He hired a reporter, if people remember not too long ago, didn't do a background check, is a sex offender. Yep. And sent them to our schools to report. Luckily, we did the background information when we saw the person's name and stopped that from happening. And I think there's even a video out there. I mean, there's probably a whole other things I don't even know about. I don't really pay attention. I'm not going to do a biography on Bob Zollinger, but I heard there was like some video of him chasing or somebody else chasing him around a car at a bank with a mayor or something like that. But, you know, if you're going to believe media, just be careful. It's not always accurate. It's not always true. Sometimes it is. Sometimes negative things happen, and we're more than willing to talk about that if we're given an unbiased opportunity to do so. The second part of this article says we refused, and we did. We did refuse to talk to this initial media entity because we could already tell that they were trying to create the narrative they wanted rather than truly do the homework to get the facts right and things and laid out clearly. And so when that happens, typically what I do is I just wait for them to produce the story, and I'll come back and tell the truth. Some people don't agree with that. Bob Zollender thinks I should talk all the time because he wants to sell newspapers. Well, I'm not going to do that unless you're going to do it in a fair way and not be biased. Whether the story is negative or positive, I don't care. Just give us a fair opportunity to say. And he didn't do that in this particular situation. He wanted to publish something, create some drama, try to sell newspapers, and try to keep the drama going. So I think that may be why his paper, I think last time I heard, it was like 4 pages long now. It's a dying company. Number 3, allegedly, the student in the article was expelled. I think this whole article was about a particular student, and then some other things, saying the student was expelled. The student was never expelled. Never expelled. Actually, the student's still in our school today, despite this narrative that was created that it made it allude as if the student's been kicked out, never been able to return, etc. The student was actually in a different school district and had some troubles there, and was removed from there and brought to us, and we still accepted them. We still tried to work with them, and they're still in our school, in summer school. And so the article never mentions that. Wonder why. The article also tries to paint a picture, again, because of assumptions, that we call the police all the time and have students arrested. Maybe one of the most outlandish, one of the main outlandish things that I think I saw in that particular article. Police are only called if there's a life and safety issue that they need to address. If there are drugs in our school, we don't just put them in our drawer or whatever with them. We have to dispose of them. And so the police come and try to get them to dispose of those illegal drugs. We also, if there's some sort of like a sexual assault or something of a serious nature, we definitely are calling the police to notify them of that. Or if there's other types of things that we notice where there may be something else the police need to be notified about, but typically, again, has to do with life safety or some illegal activity. We don't arrest people. We can't tell the police to arrest people. I think in the article it even combats that claim, and I think the county sheriff said, yeah, we've rarely arrested somebody on the campus. So it's kind of an interesting thing that was trying to be pushed in that way, and it was also completely false. I think what's happened in many of these cases, again, it's kind of vague and not necessarily specific about what's reported to the state, and so the interpretation and conjecture was made, and it's just inaccurate. Also, I thought this was interesting. The article references the Yazzie Martinez lawsuit, almost in the context as if the lawsuit was against Gallup-McKinley County Schools, the way I read it. Another failure of this article was that we're actually one of the lead plaintiffs in that lawsuit against the state of New Mexico. Interesting, again, that this article does not say anything about us being the plaintiff. It makes it look like we're the bad guys getting sued or on the bad end of that. An interesting mistake. Again, homework. And maybe a better article would be, because I think this newspaper does, social justice type articles and looks for inequity, which we found a lot, and so that's why we're a part of a lot of lawsuits to try to correct fix the wrongs, and get the correct funding actually for Native American students and for all of our students. And our efforts, not only in lawsuits and legal efforts on impact aid, being a lead plaintiff in the Yazzie Martinez lawsuit, a lead plaintiff in the capital outlay lawsuit that we have, and others, seems to be probably a better story about righting the wrongs and creating equity in the state of New Mexico. I believe we're on the right side of that. Many of our legislators in our area are on the right side of that. Our school board's been on the right side of that. We've received a lot of support from the community to get back what our students deserve as far as funding, so that our students are treated equitably compared to other students in New Mexico. And lastly, this is just a little one, but I thought this was interesting. The article acts as if we're hiding the strategic plan, elevate from the community or from this particular reporter who did this reporting. And I could see maybe how they saw that about the time that they were looking at our website, I'm guessing. We actually just redid our website. We changed to a whole new system. And at the same time also, the board just revised after 3 years their new strategic plan, and we put the new one up. Nobody was hiding the last one. We're just updating. And so that strategic plan has been available for years. We've mailed it out to families' homes, given it to students and staff. It's on the walls. It's everywhere. And then our new one is now the same thing is being done with that. But to make that kind of a shot, you can tell it's a little bit of a hit job. For what reason, I don't know. I do know one of the former independent reporters does work for this entity. I don't know if they're involved or not, but I found that interesting. Sherry Robinson, who was kicked out of Miami over here for being unprofessional and inappropriate. Again, I'm not sure if that has anything to do with the article, but I found that connection rather interesting. I think most common sense people, in conclusion, I think they see the nonsense for what it is, and I hope more people recognize the desperation of some media outlets like the Independent, and I hope they stop supporting these newspapers, these tabloids. We've talked about that before. We've tried a time or two, but Bob Zollinger always goes back on his word. He's definitely not a man of his word, and I'll say that plain and clear. I have it documented how many times we've asked just for a fair shot to give whether it's positive or negative. We just want to be able to say our side of the story, and then you print what you want. But he failed to do that because he wants to sensationalize things and get them out there and try to. He's probably loving this right now. I'm talking about this, and he's going to then write an article on about it so we can try to keep it going because it helps his bottom line, right? Puts a little cash in his pocket. I hope people stop their advertising with him like we have and many other entities have. There's public entities and private entities that have stopped advertising with him because of his tactics, and we've done the same. And as long as I'm here, I know he's vowed to get me fired, and that's why he's doing what he's doing right now. We're never going to advertise with him again. He actually sent me a text message. I'm going to read it to you. I think it's appropriate at this time. He's made comments as if we're trying to hide negative publicity. And this is Bob Zollinger's own words. And I think this kind of tells the story of truly who's after the money and who tries to push media. And this comes again after a meeting. He wanted to have a meeting with me. I'm guessing it was about advertising, but I didn't know. And so I asked him what the meeting was about. And he says, the gist of our meeting is to tell you, this is a quote, the gist of our meeting is to tell you how much in these painful times the Independent needs GMCS. I am an independent newspaper with no sugar daddy to bail us out when times are difficult. Our overhead never ends. 35 employees with their spouses and dependents depend on me to successfully guide the Independent through this pandemic. While other media in Gallup are run with little overhead, ours is grinding us down. What I need from GMCS and you is a commitment to this community to maintain the strength of your local newspaper. Yes, the news people can be a real pain at times, but I think it is that news coverage that makes us, both you and me, strong. I'm asking you to move a significant portion of your advertising budget from the Sun and Journey to help the independents maintain their jobs. A community without a newspaper is as bad as one without a school. Close quote. I don't think that surprises anybody. Maybe the sugar daddy part. But again, I know I'm speaking to the choir. I know that people in Gallup and the community know what's likely going on here. Again, we're not afraid of the truth. We're obviously not perfect. We're trying to make things better. And I think this board and the school and the staff have done a great job at trying to move things forward. And we're gonna continue to do our best to support students. And again, I just want to thank our staff. They have done an incredible job during difficult times, during a difficult pandemic, changing the way we teach. A lot of guardrails put on them in a lot of different ways, and for safety reasons and other things during this time. And then things like this happen where they are claimed to be racist. And I think that's just completely unfortunate. And we just need to support good articles. Let's get the truth out about what's happening in our community. The truth makes us better, and it also allows us to celebrate the good things that happen, especially with our students, our great staff in Gallup-McKinley County Schools, and celebrate all the accomplishments they've made on behalf of students, and the time and energy, resources, and just what they do to make things better for students and not tear them down, which is what these articles are doing. So we have a great staff at GMCS. Any questions?
Board members, any questions?
Mr. Mortensen,
Yes, ma'am.
first of all, sir, I would like to first thank Mr. Hyatt for giving us the facts. I think we received these information through email, but also projecting it here in our meeting, which, you know, I agree that, you know, this is a put down to a lot of our staff district-wide. You know, we do what we can to support them as a board, and our initiative is always to put our children first. But to have someone to tear them down like this, especially now, you know, we don't need it. You know, the negative things that are happening, you know, we just fought through a huge pandemic that took a lot of our lives, a lot of our community members, our families' lives, and to continue on with more negativity just to be spiteful is uncalled for at this time. But I appreciate Mr. Hyatt, and you know, we met up at a couple of times where you know, we attend certain basketball games, and to call our superintendent racist is appalling. It's a fact that he has family that are of my same blood, of Native American blood. And to say that he's a racist is uncalled for. So I appreciate the journey and the Gallup Sons. I just was looking at the journey paper back in the conference room, and it's beautiful. Our children are highlighted in there with their career readiness information, and it's colorful, it's wonderful, it's happy, it brings you see it, and it, you know, there's nothing negative. And yes, we do have to report some awful things at times. Unfortunately, in our district, we had some scares, and then also statewide, we've heard about some school shootings, and you know, I mean, those are horrific things that happen. And those need to be brought out. But I think what is happening today is just hurtful. It's awful. And, you know, to see an adult like this is also disturbing. You know, we tell our kids that look at us to be leaders and to be grown up, to have these wonderful jobs, to have their mind full of beautiful stories. And this isn't conquering that we're completely doing the opposite of what, or he's doing the opposite of what we were tried to enforce in our children. But I'm thankful that also, Mr. Hyatt, that we don't invest the money that we get on behalf of our children into this tabloid. I'm thankful that we're using the funds that we have into more positive realms as the Journey and Gallup Sons. And that wasn't just your decision, that was a board discussion that we had also, where we would like to have our advertising done. So, you know, the attack shouldn't just be on you, but I appreciate that, sir. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Mr. Long, anything from you, sir?
Yes, I think we've never done this in the past, but I would like to entertain a motion that we accept the superintendent's report and to let them know that we support him as a board for the things that he has done for our school district. I really appreciate the work that he has done. And one of the things that, you know, newspaper companies and all that write about us, they need to write about things like Impact 8 for years. school districts that don't have Native Americans have been stealing money from our kids. That's a great, I guess, an enormous discrimination against our kids. And they need to write about things like that. And so I'd like to entertain that motion that we support our superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Long. We'll get to his motion in just a second. Anything else? Anything else? Okay. I would like to add my support to my fellow board members and to Mr. Hyatt. We've talked many times in our board amongst ourselves and in public. We're interested in building and growing and improving, and we want to partner with operations and entities, media entities that are interested in helping us to build and grow and improve our community. And we don't want to be associated with Bush League amateurish journalists. We're just not interested in it. We want to build and grow and improve. Now with that, I'll second Mr. Long's motion.